What's up, everybody? And today we are watching this jet terrified the West. The MiG-25 Foxbat. This is by Mustard. I will leave a link down below to the OG video. Definitely go down there, give it a little cheeky look and all that good stuff. No question of the day today. I'm too busy traveling and stuff like that, so I wasn't able to get a question up there. So if you have got a question, leave it in the comment section down below, and we'll certainly check that out and we'll put it in the next video. What else? My merch is still available. Check that out, link down below. If you buy something, you get a private video sent to by me. It's a ton of fun. Other than that, let's get hyped for this. It's a jet. I don't know much about military vehicles, if I'm honest with you. So I'm excited to learn more. Hopefully getting some more coverage. I'm recording this on Thursday, so a while back. I'm hoping we get some news about the whole Russia-Ukraine thing soon, and we'll do another video on that very soon as well. Also, Halo next week. We're going to hopefully finish it. That's it. Let's watch the video. Let's check it out. Let's see what it's all about. Woo!
This video was made possible by CuriosityStream.
Okay.
Watch thousands of high-quality documentaries and get access to my streaming service Nebula using the link in the description.
Okay.
In November 1971, two Israeli fighter jets raced to intercept an unidentified aircraft.
Okay.
The F-4 Phantoms are among the fastest fighter jets in the world. But they're
Okay.
not fast enough because they're chasing a MiG-25, a plane that can fly so fast and high it can outrun any fighter or air defense system. For nearly a
Holy
decade,
cow.
the Soviet
That's fast. That's really fast. Holy cow.
Union's MiG-25 will remain a complete mystery and leave Western intelligence scrambling for answers.
Wow. Okay.
In the
So it's a Soviet Union plane.
opening
Interesting.
years of the Cold War, a new kind of weapon emerged, the intercontinental bomber. An aircraft with enough range to reach nearly any part of the world to deliver a nuclear strike.
Which is very scary.
America's first intercontinental bomber not only flew further, it flew higher and faster than any bomber before it,
Wow.
making it extremely difficult to intercept. And it started a decades-long trend of building strategic bombers that flew ever higher and faster.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union responded by building increasingly capable fighter interceptors to try and stop them. But by the late 1950s, Soviet intelligence had learned that the Americans were developing a new state-of-the-art bomber that would fly so high and fast, it would render the entire Soviet Air Force virtually obsolete.
The B-70. Holy cow. Look at them speeds. Look at them speeds. And that's in 1964. Holy cow, that's fast.
The XB-70 was so cutting edge that only a few years earlier, it would have been impossible to build. The
Wow.
Americans were aiming to have the bomber ready in just a few short years. For Soviet leadership, a sense of panic set in. As the largest country in the world, there were over 22 million square kilometers of airspace to guard.
Yeah.
And at any moment, American bombers could emerge from the north, or from bases in the east, or NATO-allied countries in the west.
Wow.
And only a handful of supersonic bombers would be enough to overwhelm air defenses. The Soviet Union would have just a few short years to design and build a new interceptor to match the incredible performance of the upcoming B-70. It would have to be as fast as Soviet ingenuity could make it, and developed in record time.
Yeah.
But to effectively guard the country's enormous airspace, they'd also need to mass-produce the new jet by the hundreds.
It's crazy. Think about the logistics involved in this stuff. Not only the engineering behind it, but the manufacturing, and then how quick they have to build them. Like, during war, the progression of this technology goes through the roof. Like, it's so impressive. So impressive how quickly people can put these things out when they really are in dire need of it.
The MiG-25 was the Soviet Union's answer, an interceptor that would overcome the odds with brute force. To catch the XB-70, engineers would need to equip the MiG with enormously powerful engines, but there wouldn't be time to develop new ones. Instead, they'd make do with a turbojet originally built to power cruise missiles and reconnaissance drones.
Wow.
They
Okay.
were the largest engines ever put on a fighter.
Holy
But they
cow.
were essentially disposable. It meant that initial versions of the MiG had engines with a service life of just 150 hours.
Wow.
At intercept speeds, the MiG-25 would have to withstand serious kinetic heating, with some parts reaching 300 degrees Celsius. But lightweight, heat-resistant titanium was just too difficult to produce on a mass scale. So engineers built the jet largely out of heavy nickel-steel alloy, a material that could be quickly welded together and easily repaired at even the most remote and ill-equipped airbase. But it meant that the more than 40,000-pound jet could never be maneuverable.
40,000 pound. My God. That is absolutely nuts.
A characteristic considered irrelevant for its mission. To spot enemy bombers, the MiG-25 was equipped with a colossal 600-kilowatt radar, designed to detect high-flying aircraft up to 100 kilometers away and burn right through their jamming devices.
Wow.
And it would need only one kind of weapon, 4 of the largest air-to-air missiles ever produced. Along with the interceptor, there would also be a dedicated reconnaissance version, with powerful surveillance cameras, increased range, and an even higher service ceiling.
This thing's a
Some versions
beast.
could even be equipped for high-altitude bombing. But the vast majority of MiG-25s would be built as dedicated interceptors. Mass production began in 1969, and at one point, 100 MiG-25s were rolling off assembly lines every single month.
Holy
the MiG-25
cow.
would fly higher and faster than any combat jet in history, and it would have a profound effect on the Cold War, just not in the way the Soviets were expecting.
That's incredible. Think about that. Think about how quickly they got that out and how many they produced. That's absolutely nuts. What could possibly... I mean, sure, something goes wrong. The Soviet Union collapsed. But what could go wrong, right?
In 1967, the Soviet Union put on a massive air show, and they made sure the Americans were watching. The event was even broadcast in English for Western audiences. The Soviets unveiled several new aircraft for the very first time, but they saved the best for last. In the final 10 minutes, 3 prototype MiG-25s were sent roaring past the audience. It was the first time anyone outside the Soviet Union would see the new aircraft. And for Western intelligence, it set off alarm bells. The grainy footage revealed an aircraft with all the hallmarks of an agile fighter. The unusually large wings suggested extreme maneuverability. Enormous air intakes hinted at massive engines, and experts suspected the use of advanced lightweight titanium. But what worried them the most was that the plane looked eerily similar to concepts for America's next-generation air superiority fighter.
Yeah.
A jet that wouldn't be ready for another 10 years.
Holy cow.
In Washington, military planners struggled to understand how the Soviets could have leapfrogged so far ahead.
So they were obviously panicking at this point, weren't they? Holy cow, that's incredible.
Because only a few months later, the Soviet Union started registering incredible new records for speed and altitude. And the media soon caught wind, spreading fears that the mysterious new jet could outperform anything built by the West. The U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff even publicly admitted that for the first time, the Soviets had a jet that the United States couldn't match.
Ooh, that
The
must be hard to
perceived threat
admit.
motivated the U.S. to drastically increase performance targets for its next-generation fighters. But for years, the Americans were desperate for any information they could get.
I don't actually know who has the best jets now. We watched one a while back that was like super advanced, where like it has the goggles on, you look around and it points the weapons to and stuff. Like crazy advanced. I wonder if that one's the best. What was it called? Let me know in the comments. You know which one I'm talking about. You know which one I'm talking about.
They'd catch another glimpse in 1971 when Israeli radar controllers began tracking MiG-25s over the Sinai Peninsula. The jets were clocked flying at more than 2.5 times the speed of sound.
Wow.
And at an altitude of over 20 kilometers. At one point, they even tracked one of the MiGs accelerating beyond Mach 3. But the jets flew so high and fast, no fighter in the world could catch them. For over a decade, the MiG-25 remained a mystery and continued to worry Western intelligence.
Think about that. For over a decade. A decade, guys. Think about how long that is.
But that was about to change in the most dramatic way possible. On September 6, 1976, the Soviet Union's most secretive jet showed up seemingly out of nowhere over northern Japan. It then made a dramatic crash landing at a sleepy commercial airport, nearly colliding with an airliner and skidding right off the end of a runway.
Wow.
It was the first time anyone in the West would see a MiG-25 in person. And as curious onlookers gathered, no one seemed to know where it had come from or how it got there. Piloting the MiG was 29-year-old Lieutenant Viktor Belyanka. He was quickly taken into custody, where he explained that he escaped the Soviet Union to seek asylum in the United States.
Holy cow!
Disillusioned with life in the Soviet Union and harsh conditions at his airbase, Belyanka had planned his escape for months. While on a training exercise over the Sea of Japan, he reported engine trouble, giving him a chance to fall back from his group. Belyanka then descended low enough to evade radar detection. Once out of Soviet airspace, he set course for the nearest Japanese airbase. But with limited fuel and difficulty navigating, he was forced to find the nearest airport. Belyanka was well aware that his MiG-25 was a prized possession.
That's absolutely nuts. That guy literally showed off something that had been trying to figure out for so long. Like, something we talk about in the military a lot is leaving equipment behind, especially stuff like comms and stuff that's really encrypted, to the point of you have to destroy it. Can you imagine what it was like in the room in the Soviet Union when they realized that the West now have seen this plane and it was someone that escaped their or left their ranks? Can you imagine the uproar, the frustration, the anger? That's incredible. That's like, I couldn't even imagine.
And he provided invaluable information to Western intelligence, who shipped his MiG to a nearby airbase to examine every inch of it.
I bet.
And they were in for a shock of a lifetime. The MiG-25 obviously wasn't the agile fighter they were expecting. Its heavy stainless steel airframe severely limited maneuverability, and the large wings were needed just to keep the jet airborne. The engines, while powerful enough to exceed Mach 3, couldn't sustain those speeds without permanent damage, meaning the practical limit was around Mach 2.8. The MiG's radar was powerful, but lacked look-down capability, meaning it couldn't track low-flying targets. The compromises that Soviet engineers were forced to make were now glaringly apparent, but they wouldn't have mattered much for intercepting a high-altitude supersonic bomber like the B-70. But the B-70 never made it into production. Instead, the Americans switched their tactics from high-speed, high-altitude to low-altitude radar and defense-evading aircraft.
Isn't that ironic? Isn't that ironic? So it's like calling bluff, innit? Look, we've got this vehicle that is beyond your imagination. And they made that vehicle to counter something the US did, and they didn't even put it in production. It's like calling bluff. Crazy.
Leaving Western intelligence perplexed as to why the MiG-25 was produced in such large numbers. The only other aircraft the Interceptor would potentially have to guard against were a handful of reconnaissance aircraft.
Yeah.
The same media that had once stoked fears about a Soviet superplane now openly mocked the MiG-25 as a crudely built machine that was more or less useless in combat.
There you go.
An inferior aircraft that proved that the Soviets were behind in technology. Belyanka's defection outraged Soviet leadership.
I bet it did.
And demanded that he return to the Soviet Union along with the stolen MiG. Instead, Belyanka was granted American citizenship, while his MiG was sent back to the Soviet Union in dozens of pieces.
Here's your vehicle. Put it back together yourself. I wonder what happened to him just living out. I mean, I bet they changed his name, didn't give location of where he was and all that good stuff, because his life, he couldn't have lived a safe life again.
The Americans had learned everything there was to know about the MiG-25, and they now understood critical components of the Soviet air defense system. With the MiG-25 so thoroughly compromised, Soviet engineers had to work around the clock to modernize the aircraft, equipping the MiG-25 with more powerful and reliable engines, a more sophisticated look-down radar, and the ability to field a wider range of missiles. Meanwhile, older versions of the jet, no longer a closely guarded secret, were exported to other countries. In all, nearly 1,200 MiG-25s were produced. But more than 50 years later, the MiG-25 is still the fastest fighter jet ever built, an aircraft that would set 29 world records.
Jeez.
In 1977, a MiG-25 climbed to an incredible altitude of 123,000 feet, setting a record that still stands today. Although the aircraft had been built to intercept high-altitude bombers, downgraded export versions even saw moderate success in combat. But by the late 1970s, the Soviet Union had moved on.
Yeah. By the way, we're nearly at the end of this video. Let's talk about how fantastically well put together this video is. So informative. The graphics are fantastic. I need to check out more of this channel.
Development of a next-generation interceptor was well underway. A jet that would have cutting-edge avionics, sophisticated engines, and a radar and weapon control system so advanced it could engage multiple targets simultaneously from 100 kilometers away and even link with other fighters to coordinate an attack, in the process instantly upgrading the capabilities of older Soviet fighters.
Yeah.
Where the MiG-25's design was about brute force, the new MiG-31 would use the state-of-the-art to become the world's most formidable interceptor.
Interesting.
You can learn more about the MiG-31's brilliant engineering in my latest video, now on Nebula. Nebula is where you can watch a growing number of my exclusive videos.
Never heard of Nebula before.
Like a bizarre proposal that would have seen the MiG-25 turned into a supersonic business jet. Nebula is where YouTube's top educational creators upload new videos every day.
Did not know
where
that.
You can enjoy videos without advertisements or sponsor messages. The best part about Nebula is that it's free when you sign up for CuriosityStream, a streaming service with thousands of big-budget, award-winning documentaries.
I might have to check that out, guys.
A favorite of mine is Armstrong, a beautiful documentary narrated by Harrison Ford that follows the incredible life of Neil Armstrong. From his early days in the Navy to his daring career as a test pilot and astronaut and his eventual landing on the moon. Get unlimited access to both CuriosityStream and Nebula for less than $2 a month by going to curiositystream.com/mustard and use the promo code MUSTARD when you sign up.
I might have to check that out, guys. What a fantastic video. I learned a lot there. That jet was incredible, but also very limited to its capabilities. I don't know much about vehicles. It's one thing that I've always wanted to learn more about. Maybe play some what's the flight simulator game and look at some of these vehicles and stuff. I know people get really into that. I've never really got into it, but I'd love to check it out at least, especially because it's free on Xbox Game Pass. But what a great video. Like, seeing these calling each other's bluffs still happens today. Look at Ukraine, Russia, and Russia recently was like, we're leaving the area, we're done with our training exercise, and they've not left at all. Obviously when this video comes out, I don't know what the situation will be at that point. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse. But this calling of bluffs happens all the time, doesn't it? It's absolutely nuts. Link down below to the OG video. But for now, members, you're beautiful, you're amazing, I love you, I couldn't do this without you. What else? My merch, link down below. Check it out. It's awesome. You get a private video sent to you by me. Supports the channel, and I really appreciate it. Halo next week. Other than that, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.